Hey, Gloriana, how you doing? Thank you so much for including your work. Okay, so I want to start this critique just by sharing a little story with you. And this short story is meant to kind of um, exemplify the difference between design and design thinking. Okay, so the other day I was at the drugstore and I went through the aisle of over-the-counter drugs, and I noticed that every 4 or 5 feet there was a little stand with a magnifying glass. And the magnifying glass is there to help people read the labels. And I got to thinking, we have an underlying problem here, right? And inside your head, you should be thinking that the underlying problem here is the fact that the print on not prescription bottles, but over the counter bottles is so tiny. And sometimes that can be detrimental to human life because if somebody misdoses even over the counter medications, it can kill them or cause serious damage, right? So it's really a bad design. So basically, the difference between design and design thinking is this: design is installing the magnifying glasses, okay? Because it helps, it doesn't rectify the immediate problem, but it gives a temporary solution for the immediate problem. The immediate problem is the fact that the print on the bottles is so small. Design would be saying, okay, let's design something to address this issue. All right, let's build these stands with a magnifying glass on it. Design thinking, on the other hand, is taking that situation and peeling back all the layers and saying, what is the problem from a human-centered perspective, and how can we address and rectify that problem? And of course, as we do peel back the layers, we see that the problem here is the fact that the print on the labels is so small. Okay, so at design thinking, we would go to the root of the problem and we would redesign the way that labels are affixed to over the counter drugs, right? Design would maybe be designing a system that would alleviate the problem temporarily. All right. So the reason I want to bring that to your attention and why I started this critique with that little example is that right now we're still in the design stage, Gloriana. You're still designing a iterative or iterations of the vehicle configurator, right? What we need to do is we need to take a good close look at our research and we need to determine what is the underlying problem. The underlying problem is the way in which we are accustomed to buying vehicles in this country. And that is going to the dealership, dealing with the salesman, dealing with the finance people, and just the whole high pressure sales situation where we're coerced and induced to buy, to spend as much as they can get us to spend. Okay, that's not in the interest of the user, right? The purchaser. That's in the interest of the salesperson and the dealership. We want to transpose this whole formula to benefit the user. So what the first thing we need to do is we need to take a look at our pain points. What, through your research, is the biggest problem with buying and purchasing cars today? And you'll find through your research that the biggest problem, without question, is having to deal with high pressure salespeople. So in our configuration, our configurator kiosk or our configurators, we want to design a process whereby we can eliminate as much pain point as possible. Okay, so again, to reiterate, we're not after redesigning a configurator. That's design. We're after design thinking, specifically human-centered design thinking, where we're going to attack this problem from the root. And that is the system in which we are accustomed to buying cars with the salesman, a finance person, et cetera, et cetera. So my recommendation in your solutions here, and these are great ideas, right? And I'll address each one of these individually in a second. But my recommendation is to try to add features to the kiosks, to the configurator, that will allow us to eliminate the middleman. So, for example, you can configure your whole car the way you want, right? Let's use this example right here. So you've got your what would that be, like alternative movement, navigation, and the VR headset, right? So the VR headset would show the car, and it would also show a screen. So you would touch to change the color of the wheels, touch to change the color of the car, touch to change maybe I want a luggage rack, a roof rack on the top. I want to Then I go into the inside and I change the interior color. I change it to leather. Okay, and that's all great. But can we build in the configurator somehow? Can we build a financial calculator so that we can just in one stop here? Now, after we're done configuring the car, we can see how much it costs. We can see what our payment would be if we put X amount of dollars down. We could determine the resale value with in 5 years with 100,000 miles on the car, and things like that. Those are just small examples of things that you could do. To take this a step further, we could even use a system whereby whether it be at home on your iPad or in a kiosk located in a remote location, what we could do is we could have the whole report generated and sent to a second room where there's a drive simulator. Okay, and all the information that you chose in your vehicle configurator could be sent to the drive simulator. It could be a pod that's hydraulic and has 360 projection. And you could actually sit inside the pod and drive the car. And it could simulate the way the car drives in ice conditions and wet conditions, dry roads, mountain driving, et cetera, et cetera. You see what I'm saying? So don't let current technology interfere with your ideas. At the end of the day, yeah, we'll have to have something that's relatively feasible. For example, this technology is not available yet, right? But don't let that interfere with your ideation. I think it's great that you included this, even though this technology, a projected hologram from an iPad, that technology doesn't exist yet. But so this wouldn't be a feasible option, but nonetheless include it, absolutely include it, because it helps spawn other ideas, right? So let's go ahead, and I hope that makes sense. And so far, I know I've spent just 7 minutes describing the difference between design and design thinking, the difference between regular graphic design and human-centered design. But let's just make some connections with what we have here. So in this particular case, you're saying that this is a 360-degree experience. But how does this work, and how does it give us a 360? Do you climb in it? Does it have side windows? What are you configuring here? I mean, is it a screen? Is this an iPad screen? I'm just not sure exactly what the interface is here. Okay, so describe the interface to a high degree in your final solution your final submission for Sunday. And then also add those other features, as many features as you can, so that we can eliminate any kind of dealings with dealership personnel, salespeople, finance people, et cetera, right? Now, and then you could even do the test drive. Now, ultimately, I mean, there's people that will buy a car without test driving it. There's people that won't. For the people who prefer to test drive after they do the drive simulator, they can maybe you can add a feature where you can check local inventories if maybe the dealership you're at doesn't have the model close to what you have just configured. Maybe a competitive dealership in the surrounding area has one. You can set up an appointment to go and drive the car. Do you see what I'm saying? So everything we're doing here is in attempts to eliminate the initial problem, and those are the pain points associated with purchasing a new car and the process therein. And all of that information is generated from your research, specifically your research on what people are dissatisfied about in the car buying process, right? Makes perfect sense, right? I hope it does. Please let me know, Gloria. And if it doesn't, let me know, because this is really, really foundational stuff here that's very, very, very important to continue. I would recommend that you maybe go through 1 or 2 or 3 or as many of these other videos as you can, because quite certainly I spent a lot of time in these videos describing what we're doing here and how we're not just redesigning a vehicle configurator, we're redesigning a whole process, right? Does that make sense? So try to take a look at as many of these as you can, and then when you're done, just please let me know if you have any questions whatsoever, okay? But really good start, and again, in summary, for your final submission on Sunday, let's just go ahead and add as many features as you can to eliminate any sort of pain points, and then also describe these to a little bit of a higher degree. In other words, exactly how does the interface work? And then in this one, you might want to mention that this technology isn't quite ready by today's standards, and so this is something that might be hypothetical, but nonetheless is able to spawn other ideas, right? Okay, fantastic. And again, really, really, I know I'm being repetitive, but if you have any questions at all, please let me know. Reach out, Gloriana. Thank you very much.